Hey, what's up, nonprofit filmmakers? Today we are covering one of the most important things to plan for your video shoot, the time of day. Time of day affects more than you might think in regards to filming, from either having harsh shadows to a dreamy look or loud noises of pedestrians and cars versus the peaceful serenity in a park when no one's around. Time of day affects your lighting, your sound, your composition, and much more. So it's something you should always try and plan around. The truth of the matter is that you're not going to be able to control the time of day as much as you would like to. At least at Progress Now, that's kind of what we've discovered. You'll have to manage clients, locations, crews, and just general availability of everything. So most of the time, you have to give a couple of options for when you would like to shoot, and then throw it all out last minute because of a reschedule. So let's go over the 3 major times of day you should expect and what you should expect for shooting in each of them. Midday and afternoon shoots. Likely your most common shooting situation. It works with most people's schedules, and locations are almost always open. First off, let's go over why midday and afternoon shoots are a solid option. They're usually going to be the most convenient and accessible and casual for everyone involved. This time of day gives you plenty of time to pack your equipment in the morning, charge any last-minute batteries you may have spaced last night, and go over your interview notes or your script one more time. Your client will also probably appreciate midday. Whether they are your interview subject or an actor, they'll have plenty of time to make it to the location, and they won't have to worry about lots of morning traffic. I would say midday is the easiest time to convince your clients to film. Lighting is another plus of shooting in the midday. For the most part, your light levels are going to be pretty consistent. And that means once you find the perfect exposure settings or the perfect location, you can set it and forget it. Basically, you won't have to worry about it while you're conducting your interview or filming your scenes. Plus, consistent lighting means it's predictable, which as a filmmaker is always a great thing. That means you can plan accordingly for what gear you'll need and what you'll bring. I'd recommend using a bunch of reflectors, diffusers, bounce cards, etc. Okay, now let's talk about the not so fun part of filming in the midday. First, it's probably going to be especially hot, especially in the summer. So bring some extra water, some hats, and dress light. You'll also want to remember that most people will be going to get lunch starting around 11 or 12, and this means there's going to be a lot of people out and about, which means likewise, more noise. The easiest way to get around this is to pick a location away from busy lunch places. That means no filming near food trucks, no matter how bad you want that green chili smothered burrito after you wrap. We should also mention the cons of midday lighting, because while it's consistent, it's also overhead and fairly harsh. Midday is usually the brightest time of the day, so it can be hard to control for extreme exposure situations, especially on clear, cloudless days. Expect those bright, blown-out backgrounds, and you might even need to touch them up in post. The bright light can also look unflattering or harsh on your subject, even amateurish, so be prepared for that. Lastly, your location also might be in use already, and there's a chance for hecklers or folks bugging you or people asking for permits or just making trouble. Okay, so if you are planning to film outside in the middle of the day, bring reflectors and flags. A reflector can go a long way in some cases, do even more than a powered light for brightening up your subject's face. Bounce boards and diffusers give nice natural glow and are easy to use. Plus, if you need to add some shadow, just put one of them between your subject and the sun on a light stand and you've got a poor man's flag. Ah, the early morning, waking up at 5 a.m. to chug some coffee and then drive 2 hours to your location. The early morning is a staple in the film world, and while you might not like it, you should get used to it and you're soon to manifest caffeine addiction. But worry not, morning shoots aren't all just being tired and snailing around. There's some great plus sides to them too. First off, in the summer, it's gonna be way cooler than shooting later, even compared to the evening. Trust me when I say this is going to be a big factor when filming. The cooler it is, the happier most people are going to be. That means you can spend time needed to get the best results without everyone wanting to pack up and retreat back into their air-conditioned cars and homes. Comfort goes a long way to getting quality results. Lighting in the morning is also a big difference. It'll be far more interesting to look at, not necessarily easier to work with, but we'll get to that later. In the early morning, the quality of light is soft and diffuse and flattering. Anything you shoot is going to look incredible. The sun is also going to be closer to the horizon instead of just being right overhead, and this gives you a lot more options for getting more cinematic looks and lighting your subject's face. Early in the morning, there also isn't going to be as many people out, other than some early birds, occasional joggers, or maybe even bird watchers. But most areas will be less crowded than at any other time of day. And this means locations will be easier to use and you won't be bothered as much, and you have first dibs on wherever you'd like to film. There's also going to be less car and foot traffic, dramatically reducing the amount of ambient noise and allowing you to get crisp, quality audio. All right, the cons. Let's start with the obvious con. It's the morning, so you're gonna have to wake up very, very early. And this means a couple of things. There won't be much time to prep your gear and prepare anything else you might have forgotten the night before. So I would recommend doing all of your prep work the night before. Client location, relationships, emailing schedules, and packing up and checking all of your film gear, of course. And it's important to note that it might take your subject some extra convincing to agree to an early morning shoot. Let's just hope they're a morning person. Okay, but let's say you have your equipment ready to go and your client is on board. The next thing to worry about is rush hour traffic. If you're shooting in the city or anywhere that's just a bit farther than just your local park, expect an extra 10 to 20% on top of your usual travel time. No matter how much we account for it, we almost always burn serious time being stuck in traffic. If your location isn't too far off of a highway or a busy road, also account for the extra road noise. Lastly, plan for your lighting to be inconsistent. The longer you shoot, the warmer, louder, brighter, harsher it's going to get in the day. You might lose your best conditions while you're setting up, or if your subject is running late. You're always sort of racing against the clock in the morning in a way that even in midday or late evening shoots you're not, at least not in the same ways. So you've got to move quickly and efficiently. Tip number 1, bring coffee. No, seriously, even if you're a coffee drinker, drink your morning coffee and then bring an extra cup to share with the crew. A little sharing will go a long way, and the fastest way to a filmmaker's heart is through a fresh cup of joe. Next, prep your gear. Make sure all of your gear is packed and ready to go the night before. Either load it into your car or do what I like to do and lay everything out on the ground so you have a clear image of what you have and what you might need to bring. And please, don't forget to not only charge your batteries, but also take them with you. Leaving a battery plugged into the wall at your house is less useful than a mostly empty battery in your bag. Trust me, I have been there. For filming, the best tips are to expect your light to change from early morning golden hour to harsher lighting as you continue to film. So if you are filming an interview and keeping this in mind, it might be better to get all of your pretty B-roll shots of your subject first. Grab all your walking in slow-mo rotational shots and face close-ups first, and then move on to your interview. Waiting to film the interview till later in the day will mean that your light levels will actually remain more consistent. There's less dramatic changes throughout the interview process. But still, remember that if you're doing an interview over an extended period of time, make sure you watch your exposure settings. You don't want everything to suddenly become terribly overexposed while you're busy asking questions. Just remember to pay attention to your light levels. Occasionally check your monitor or even set your ISO to automatic to account for it for you. The last time of day we'll be talking about is evening into night shoots. This time is a little different than our previous ones, and it can give you some serious challenges to deal with, but if you nail it just right, you can get some incredible looking results. First, the pros. The biggest thing I like about this time of day is the mood, the vibes shooting at this time will give. The sunset is a great time to get really dramatic shots, and if you time it right, will also give you some great golden hour shots. Shooting at night will also give you more options to do interesting things with the contrast. Your viewer's eyes will be drawn to the brightest part of your shot. So if you use the nighttime to your advantage, you can focus your viewers with the well-placed light and a nice dark backdrop. And sound is usually more chill in the late evening. Heck, once night settles in, more people will be inside, and this makes your ambient sound much quieter, making it easier to get excellent sound. Evening and nighttime shoots are usually a good time for your clients, too. Your subject can come to your location after they get off work, and if they don't have time constraints, you can film as late as you need to into the night. After the sun sets, you'll also have constant lighting. Well, no lighting. And that means you won't have to worry about any of your camera's settings once they're set up. Alright, it's time to talk about the cons. Shooting from the evening into night will leave you with super inconsistent lighting, much like shooting in the morning. This means you're going to need to bring lights with you. No matter how you plan to shoot, you won't be able to get away with bounce boards like the previous times of day. You'll need enough lights for a full setup, so a minimum at least 2 is what I would recommend, but more is always better. Check out our previous video on lighting for more information about that. In the early evening, you're also going to have to watch out for that rush hour traffic again. Give yourself extra time and expect there to be some road noise. We've shot a bunch of interviews in the evening, and even in suburban areas, there's cars driving home from work, and it's forced us to pause and do some retakes, so be prepared for that. Lastly, just know that night shoots tend to be more difficult than any other time of day. It's dark and it's harder to manage equipment. There's gonna be more noise introduced into your footage, visual noise, and the lighting is gonna take more time, and it can get cold. Nobody likes to film in the cold. Evening and night shoots can be more difficult than other times of day, of course, but the results can be so worth it. So here are some tips you should know if you plan to shoot into the night. Firstly, get all of your glamour and B-roll shots during golden hour and sunset. Once night falls and gets dark, shoot with a fast lens if you have one. Shooting at f2.8 or even as fast as f1.4 will give you more light and knock down the noise. Also, bring as many batteries and battery-powered LEDs as you can. And just practice beforehand. Shooting at night is like no other time of day for filming. All right, nonprofit filmmakers, that's all of the times of day that you can shoot at. So which one's best for you? I'd say look at the pros and cons of each and see what equipment you have and what location you're shooting at and weigh that all together. If you don't have many LEDs and you're filming in a park, then maybe stay away from the night shoots and go for a midday one. Or maybe you're filming the governor who is super busy and you want to film next to a high traffic walking path or a road. I'd say aim for the early morning. But most importantly, expect things to change. One of the hardest parts of filmmaking is scheduling everyone. You're most likely going to have to choose the time of day based on what works best for your client. So yeah, at the end of the day, there's no perfect time to shoot. A lot of it depends on the location, which is why it's so important to scope out a location a few days beforehand, ideally during the same time of day that you'll be filming. Listen to the sound level, maybe even record a little bit on your phone, and look at the lighting. Where's the sun? Actually, quick aside, if you download the Sun Seeker app, link in the description below, it'll show you where the sun will be in augmented reality view at different times of day and different times of year, allowing you to plan well in advance. And make your best guess based on the people there if you'll get bothered when you bring out a bunch of film equipment. And lots of places are fine as long as you're not blocking any pedestrian walkways. Other places will require a permit. And there is a difference between weekdays and weekends for the shootability of a location. Okay. All right, that's all we have for you today, nonprofit filmmakers. Please like, subscribe, and ask us any questions you have in the comments below. And until next time, all right. Oh, wait. It's for the cover art.